With all our pre-planning out of the way, you're ready to begin the installation of your rigid sun tunnel skylight. Inside the room for the installation, locate the general area where you want to install your sun tunnel skylight. Then push a nail or wire through the ceiling sheetrock to mark the location. Now move up to the attic. Find the location on the roof deck directly vertical from your center point and hammer a nail to mark it both inside the attic and on the roof above. Before leaving the attic, if you haven't done so already, measure the distance from your mark on the ceiling to your mark on the roof deck. This will help you determine the amount of rigid tunnel that you'll need later in the installation. Now, back inside the room, locate the nail marking the center of your installation, mark and cut the hole for your ceiling ring. You can trace the outside of the ceiling ring to determine the correct size for the hole. You may find it easier to cut out a guide at the appropriate diameter, 10 3/4 of an inch for a 10-inch tunnel and 14 3/4 of an inch for a 14-inch tunnel. Then slip the guide over your center marker, mark the outside of the guide, and cut your hole. Then insert the ceiling ring and secure it in place with the pre-attached fasteners. With the ceiling ring installed, it's time to head up on the roof and install the flashing. Flashing installation varies based on whether you're installing a low profile or a pitched flashing. Let's look at the steps for a low profile flashing first. To begin with, locate the nail marker that you inserted earlier. This will be the center point of the installation. If you're installing a low-profile flashing, at this point you need to mark the area around your installation and remove all roofing materials from the top half of the installation area. You will slide the flashing over the remaining roofing materials later in the installation. With the roofing materials removed, you should mark a circle around your center point with a large enough diameter for a rigid tunnel to pass through. For a 10-inch tunnel, you should mark a 10-inch diameter. For a 14-inch tunnel, you should mark a 14-inch diameter. Now, you're ready to drill a hole into the circle and use your reciprocating saw to cut out the circle. So that the wood plug inside the circle doesn't fall through the hole and cause damage below, you may want to attach a board wider than your hole to the piece being cut out. This simple tip could save you a great deal of frustration. Now, position the flashing piece in place over the hole you just cut. Be sure to slide it under any roofing material that is still in the way. Trim any excess roofing material to ensure a 5/8 inch gap between the roofing material and the vertical edge of the flashing. Next, apply a solid ring of sealant completely around the rough opening. This will provide added weather protection to the flashing. Position the flashing piece on the roof deck and secure it in place with the screws provided. And coat the screw heads with a layer of sealant to avoid any possible leaks. Finally, overlap the top flange of the flashing with underlayment to provide proper drainage. And install roofing material around the flashing, leaving a 5/8 inch gap between the underlayment and the vertical panel of the flashing. And that's it. Your flashing is installed. Now, let's look at the steps involved with a pitched flashing installation. To begin with, locate the nail marker that you inserted earlier. Mark the area where the installation will occur and remove all roofing materials from the top half of the installation area. You'll slide the flashing over the remaining roofing materials later in the installation. With the roofing materials removed, you should mark semicircles at the top and bottom of the flashing hole. Connect these lines at the rough opening width for your flashing. For a 10-inch tunnel, you should mark a 10-inch width. For a 14-inch tunnel, you should mark a 14-inch width. Now, you're ready to drill a starting hole and use your reciprocating saw to cut out the rough opening. The rest of the installation is identical to the low-profile flashing installation. Just apply a solid ring of sealant around the rough opening. Position the flashing piece in place over the hole you just cut. Secure the flashing piece to the roof deck and coat the screw heads with sealant. Overlap the top flange of the flashing with underlayment. And finish by installing the roofing material around the flashing. With the flashing installed, you're ready to install the rigid tunnel. If you haven't done so previously, at this point you need to go into the attic and measure to determine the overall tunnel length you'll need. Place the upper elbow into the pitch adapter and remove the protective film. Then assemble the straight tunnel sections together. In the demonstration video, you will see only one straight section, but more may be needed if you're installing a longer tunnel. Attach the pile gasket to the bottom edge of the lower elbow. And assemble the tunnel sections together. Don't tape them just yet, since there may be some adjustment required later. Be sure to remove the protective film on all tunnel pieces. On the roof, lower the assembled tunnel into the rough opening, ensuring that the pitch adapter and upper elbow are at the top. Make any necessary adjustments to ensure that the tunnel will fit properly. Position the dome on the flashing and secure it in place with the screws provided. Now back in the attic, it's time to finish off the tunnel installation. Secure the seams of all tunnel segments with the screws provided, and tape all joints to lock the tunnel in place, covering any gaps between tunnel sections. Now you're ready to add the finishing touches.